Hello! Why do I always do this? This is cringy. Welcome back, and if you're new, I'm Jen. I focus on all things self-care, productivity, health, and wellness while living in New York City. Today we're going to focus on how to get a job in PR post-grad. So I have worked at 3 PR agencies so far, and I'm only 2.5 years out of college, so I've had plenty of interview experience. So a lot of these interview and networking tips can apply to a bunch of other creative and more liberal arts related industries, but I am focusing solely on PR because that is what I have the most experience with, and I want to share with you the tips to my success and what I've seen to work for me. So let's just get right into it. Oh my, there's a barking fight between my dogs and the neighbor's dogs. Okay, so my first tip is pretty general, but I'm gonna get super specific with tips, and that is utilize LinkedIn. I'm here to bless you with this amazing tool and feature on LinkedIn, which is the alumni tool. Now, I'm assuming if you're here, you've graduated college. So what I do, because I honestly never remember how to get there from LinkedIn, but I just Google alumni LinkedIn, click on the first thing that comes up right here, and it already knows what school I go to because it's on your LinkedIn account. And if it's not, that's your first tip, add your college to your LinkedIn account. And here's where you can customize the people that you are searching for. So you can search where they live. So if you are looking for a job in New York like I was, I always clicked New York. So you could choose from where they live, where they work, what they do, what they studied. So that is what the alumni feature looks like and how you're gonna find the alumni contacts on LinkedIn. Then what you do from there is you're going to ask them to connect and always put a little personalized note. So I would say something along the lines of something really short and sweet because it's just a little note on the invitation that they're gonna get. Hey Josh, as a fellow Tulane alum and aspiring PR professional, I would love to connect. And you'd be surprised, a lot of these people are actually already looking for entry-level talent, or their company might actually be hiring. So just knowing that you are from a school that they love and that you are wanting to do something that they're interested in, they're most likely going to accept. So then from there, once they accept your connection request, don't expect them to respond to your little note because that note was just like in the invitation. They're not going to remember to follow up. So once they accept your request, if they do, I would then send them a very, very personalized message with the intent being you want to learn more about their industry, more about their company, more about their specific position in whatever job they have. And that's how you approach it. You don't say, I'm looking for a job. Are there any openings right off the bat? They don't know you yet. You can't just expect them to trust you and to want to refer you and to want to just like hand you a job. How I have gotten jobs through networking, starting with this simple alumni search and in-mailing, has always been through setting up an informational call. So what is an informational call? That means you are going to talk to them, not about you wanting a job and what kind of job you want to do and where you're looking to be hired. If they ask you, which I'm sure they will, then you speak to it. But your intent and what your request is going to be is to learn more about the industry, learn more about that company, and learn more about the day-to-day responsibilities of someone in his position, his or her position. Not only is this going to actually build a relationship and allow them to get to know you and allow them to see you as someone who's genuinely interested and eager to learn more about his industry or her company or whatever it may be, but you're actually going to learn more. And I know for me, there were certain jobs that I thought I would be interested in and wanted, and I set up these informationals, and then as I was talking to them and asking them questions that I planned out in advance, I realized actually this job might not be for me. It's not what I thought. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna reach out and you're gonna ask for a quick call or to treat them to a quick coffee, and always at least try to pay when you're grabbing coffee. I know sometimes I would go to pay and they would say absolutely not because they were just so much older than me. In that case, of course, just like let it go. Don't make it too awkward, but always at least offer. So you're gonna say, do you have time for a quick coffee? Do you have time for a quick 10-minute phone call? And always stress that it's gonna be quick because you can't expect that these people don't have back-to-back meetings and so much more to do than just help out a bunch of students. There are such lovely people out there that wanna help and also people that are looking to hire. What happens when you book these calls or these coffees? You are going to do your research. Do your research on the company, do your research on their job, all of that, because as much as you are going to be asking them questions and aren't expected to know everything, because the whole point of this call is to get information and learn more from them, you want to have educated, smart questions. You want to know what's going on in the industry. So if there was an article that came out that HBO is merging with Verizon and you have a call with someone from HBO, you want to be able to speak to that, or you don't have to speak to that, just ask them about that. How has that affected your company? At least know like what PR is. You shouldn't be asking like, so what is public relations? You want to come in there prepared as if it were an interview in case they start asking you a bunch of questions, but also with a bunch of questions of your own, so it's not just like an awkward conversation. And bring your personality, because at the end of the day, if they really enjoyed talking to you, they're going to want to help you more. The whole idea of networking is to actually build a relationship so that they know who you are, and when a job comes up, they can actually think of you or want to take your resume from you, and then they will pass it on to someone else in the company. So this is where I have found the most success in terms of landing the interview. So we're starting from the top of the process, which is getting that interview, and I find going through alumni is the best way. But that is my number one tip for landing the interview and making connections in the space. Especially for PR, because this is just such a major tip. I know I've spent so much time on it, but PR is all about building and making and maintaining those relationships. If you don't even know what PR is, start there before you start reaching out to anyone aimlessly. It's totally fine. PR is one of those things where you're like, what actually is that? No one knows until they do it. But I actually uploaded a vlog where I sat down with you guys right here and dumbed down PR and like explained the day-to-day responsibilities. So if you are interested in that, I'll link it up here and down below. But once you are familiar with PR, you will understand that the whole idea of it is cold pitching and emailing editors and building relationships with them, taking them for coffee. So if you are able to do this with the PR professionals, with alumni from your school or whoever you're making connections with, they'll want to hire you. But that's what's going to make them want to set you up with an interview or pass on your resume. That is how you land those meetings. One tip is the alumni, but you can land these meetings on LinkedIn in a bunch of different ways. Just do your informed research, find someone that's maybe from the same city as you, or just like any commonality that you have with someone from that company. So now all these people that I have mutual connections with, the first thing you can do is look at the names of the people that are mutual connections and see if you're close with any of them. If you are, I would text them, reach out to them and say, hey, do you know this person at Glossier? Can you introduce me? And you could take that introduction route, or you can cold connect with them just like we mentioned before with the alumni. Take the same exact process and just say, hey, I noticed we both lived in New York. Or I noticed we both had a major in this. Or a lot of times I noticed we had a bunch of mutual connections and both live in New York, and I'm very curious about working at Glossier and in PR, so I would love to connect with you since you do all of that. So just find commonalities with these people, and just because you don't have a direct connection doesn't mean they're not going to answer you. I can almost guarantee that if you spend hours or like a half hour every single day on LinkedIn doing these types of connections and mailing and messaging people, can almost guarantee a lot of people are going to answer you, and you're going to get either a resume passed along or a phone call or an interview out of it. But never directly ask for an interview or anything. Always just ask because you're curious about the company or the industry, like I've mentioned several times before. Moving on from LinkedIn, I could do a whole video on LinkedIn. I have so many LinkedIn tips, like so many very detailed tips that I would be happy to share in a longer form video if you want, so let me know below. The next tip is one that I absolutely hate, but try your best. Tailor your resume. Find things in the job description and put them in your resume. First of all, post-grad, no one is expecting you to have like years of experience. Always apply for jobs that are entry level if you're out of college. And that is what they mean. It means you're just out of college, you're just entering the industry. They're not expecting this like lengthy resume of past PR jobs because you're applying for entry level. So within your internships, I would add specific phrases from the job description into your bullets under your internships or in your interests, in your skills. So take those key phrases and keywords that are in the job description and throw them throughout your resume so that when they're flipping through resumes, the things that they're looking for will stand out to them. And if you're applying for TikTok, obviously have in your interests, in your skills, TikTok, have something cute, like tailor it to who you are applying to. Okay. So you've networked, you've tailored your resume and your cover letter, and now you have landed an interview. So how do we prep for these interviews? So my number one tip would be glassdoor.com. So this website is a website where employees and former employees all comment on their companies. So let me explain further because that made no sense. Let's use an example. Let's just keep using Glossier. You type in Glossier in Glassdoor and you type in New York, then you click on Glossier and you can see salaries, you can see reviews of working at the company, and my main focus on this is you can see interview questions. Now, the accuracy of this is that it's all people who have either gone through the interview process, worked at the company before. It's former employees or former interviewees that are filling out reviews on Glassdoor. So it's peer-to-peer reviews. So you're gonna see people that have had interviews there before logging in interview questions on there and how the interview process goes. So you're not going in totally blind. Hopefully people have interviewed here before and you can find tons of information on the interview process and interview questions. So that's always the first place I go to before an interview. So I'll take all the previous questions that have been asked from this company before, and then I will also Google common PR interview questions, and I will copy and paste all of those questions and put all of these tons of questions into a Word document. And this is when I get to typing and I start working on my answers. You can Google best answers to these questions. There are certain questions that they're looking for certain things in your answers. So there's so many articles where you can find common PR questions, and then they will say, this is the type of answer you want to give. You want to showcase this within your answer. So all of those articles are super, super helpful. I'm going to link them down below so you don't even have to bother with the research of it. I'm just going to link those articles down below. You can use the suggested answers and the insight of why these questions are being asked to educate and inform you of what your answer should be. And don't just like copy the typical answer. Try to come up with something that showcases your own personality, your own strengths, your own life experiences, because they're trying to get to know you. Showcase all the positive things about you. So one little tip for strengths and weaknesses, try to turn your weakness into something positive always, instead of just like bashing yourself. That shows that you can learn from your mistakes, that you could take constructive criticism, and that you can grow. And right there is a mature person out of college, and you will be hired like that. I can't snap, but my process is, like I said, I transfer all the questions into a Word document, and then I start typing away at my answers, Googling like what types of answers they're looking for, and then drawing from my own experiences and coming up with my answers. So you're gonna wanna have all of these life experience stories and all of these types of answers planned out. So I type them all out, but then the second part of my process is key. Then I practice talking out all the answers. Practicing saying it out loud. After writing it, thinking of the story and everything, you're gonna remember the answer, but practicing saying it out loud will just help you work out the kinks and help you remember it when the time comes. But this isn't like intended to memorize it by any means. It's just practicing. Practice being personable, practice answering the question in a confident way. And then once you're going into the interview and when you're in the interview, sometimes people, I don't get that nervous in interviews, but a lot of people will get so nervous that they like black out, but because you've rehearsed it so many times and you know in your gut that like you got this, it'll just come out. It'll just come naturally. So this leads me to once you're in the interview room. You want to show your personality. That's okay if you're more reserved. I'm not saying you have to be over the top and loud and obnoxious. People don't want to work with people like that either, but they want to know who they're going to be sitting with every day. They want to know if they vibe with you. As much as you think while you're interviewing, it's all about the experience and it's all about what you know, which they're not going to hire someone who has no idea what they're even applying for. So obviously, like, go in eager to learn and know what you're applying for. Another thing these people are looking for is that they are going to work well with you. They want to work with someone who's easygoing, and especially for entry level out of college, they want to work with someone who's really passionate and excited to jump into the industry, excited to learn. They want to train someone from the bottom up. It's not a disadvantage that you're just out of college. They want your fresh perspective. They want your young perspective, your young creative ideas. They want all of that. But you need to be willing and eager to learn so that they can train you. So you just show your excitement, show that you know what you're getting yourself into in a sense, like you did your research, you know the company, you know what brands they work with if it's an agency. Speak to some of their campaigns they've done. Most PR agencies have case studies on their website. you should know at least one of those case studies so that if you need to bring up an example or you end up just like having a discussion with them, you can bring up that case study and say you would have loved to be a part of something like that. I've been a part of interviewing people as well, and like when you are just like completely robotic, we sort of forget about you. We remember the people that we ended up laughing with, having a conversation with, that were really smart. You know what you're here for. You know what this company does. You know what your role would be, and you're all for it. Okay, you've done the interview. Do not wait more than 24 hours to send a thank you note. So if you don't have the emails of the people that interviewed you, whoever from HR set up your interview, thank them for setting it up and ask them for the email addresses of the people that interviewed you. Or you can also ask that you send her the note to then forward to them. Always try to get the email address first, but they don't always like handing them out. So sometimes HR will say, feel free to send me the thank you note and I'll email it along. So then after you write the thank you note, I would wait at least a full week to follow up again. Unless they said in response or on the interview that they would get back to you in 3 weeks or whatever it was, then of course don't. But if they said they would get back to you within the week or they didn't say anything at all, I would wait at least a full week to follow up. Give them a little time, but don't just disappear, because then it looks like it was just another interview and you didn't really want it anyway. Make it really personalized, really personable. So those are all of my tips. I would be happy to do like a part 2 to this or a LinkedIn edition. If you found this helpful and you want another video based on this, comment down below. You can always DM me on Instagram as well at Jen_Lauren with 2 N's. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps me out. It helps the algorithm and it helps us build this amazing supportive community. My goal is to have a community that we can all help each other with things like this, with LinkedIn notes and whatever it is, on a Facebook group one day. So don't forget to subscribe, click that notification bell so that you never miss a video and we can keep hanging out and helping and supporting each other. And I love you guys, and please stay healthy. Mwah.